Bandúsach. Talamh a bhí a gcónaí bandúsach, agus talamh a bhés a gcónaí bandúsach. Aníam Maurie ó náisiún éora agus cúnda Gadigal. Agus aníam Maurie bandúsacha fir agus maná ar fógan na críocha seo go leor. Cuma aníam na daoine nach Maurie iad. Iad sanna tábra dúil as a gcuid starra, ná clíog riamh iad. Agus a chúis mór a bháin, níl siad cléite, sin go bhfuil siad do cléite. Tá beo i leanúint leis an gcultúr atá beo le 65 míle bliana, agus atá beo daingeón mór chuid iarachtaí, idir ár agus gearlúnt agus faoi chois lena bharú. Tres líam líbse, tres líam. As bó misnach agus an neacht atá bhfuil mór riamh, atá I cumad beo, tinne buan bór síntse. I acknowledge today that I am standing on Aboriginal land. Land that has always been Aboriginal land and always will be Aboriginal land. I acknowledge the elders of this, the Eora Nation, and the county of Gadigal. And I acknowledge the indigenous elders, men and women, across this entire continent. As well, I acknowledge those who are not elders, those who are proud of their history, who have never been conquered. And there is one great reason that they remain unconquered, and that is because they are unconquerable. They are alive, following along with the culture that is alive after 65,000 years, and which is alive today despite non-stop efforts of slaughter and persecution to obliterate it. I congratulate you for your courage and your resolve, and the strength you have in your hearts, which keep alive the unquenchable fires of your ancestors. I may be gone before she arrives, but I would like to offer my welcome to Senator Ballinreary McCarthy. I have had in my mind now for quite a few years an issue that has caused me, as an Australian and as a native of Ireland, considerable grief and embarrassment, but also a portion of pride. I refer to an act of slaughter inflicted upon Aboriginal groups of families at Mile Creek, a small place not too far out from Inverell. The year was 1838. The New South Wales Attorney General at the time was John Hubert Plunkett. After 2 trials and the steadfast, sustained objections of the leaders of Sydney society, lawyers, newspapers, indeed pretty much everybody except Plunkett and his team and the odd clergymen, 7 white men who had been brought back in chains to Sydney and charged with the murder of Aboriginal people were found guilty and duly hanged. This was the first time in the history of Australia that a white person had been hanged for killing an Aboriginal person. My sadness is based on more than one issue. First, the thought of the slaughter of defenceless men, women and children conjures up an incredible scene of bloodshed, screaming for pity, the scared crying of children, of elders trying to protect their children and their grandchildren. It is beyond sickening, to say the least. Then, my realization that 2 of the murderers were Irish gives me a very good reason to feel ashamed. The 2 were not political prisoners, as were many Irish prisoners. They were not political prisoners, but they had been found guilty of robbery. Irish political prisoners were not usually sent out to work, but were kept in custody in unbelievable conditions and generally only allowed out to break rocks on chain gangs and given countless lashings, generally up to 300 in one session, at the discretion of guards. There is no way that Irish political prisoners would have had support from the freemen of the colony. I cannot but feel desperately angry that 2 men from Ireland, whose families must have suffered under uninvited foreign rule in their own land, would have been involved in inflicting such cruel and unwarranted crimes upon quiet and defenceless Aboriginal people. It gets to me. The one bit of solitary pride I have in this case is that the man who, in the face of unbelievable opposition and obstacles, he prosecuted the killers, that was John Hubert Plunkett. He was himself an Irishman, and of him I am proud. There are stories of killings and mass killings of Aboriginal people in the little exposed history of this nation. Society conveniently fails to admit or resurrect the circumstances. Just let it fall out of history and eventually it will be forgotten. Seems to be the accepted norm of so many. Wrong. It never will, and it never should be swept under the carpet. I am unaware of any national apology for the attempt to annihilate the Aboriginal people. A regret and a sorry has been expressed for the stolen generation, and very properly. But I am unaware of a formal admission of guilt for the murder of countless indigenous people over the past 230 years. Such failure indicates to me that Australian governments from day one, are refusing to admit the true story of colonialism. No nation asks for colonizers to take over their country. No nation invites colonization. None. Colonization is inevitably achieved by brutality and slaughter of the original inhabitants. Until this is acknowledged and followed by admissions of guilt and genuine efforts to compensate by Australian governments, federal, state and territory, the majority of Australians will be living a lie. One does not have to have done the deed to be guilty. Failure to honestly acknowledge the blatant factual truth is equally a guilt. Thank you.